Judith Fenrose opened every flight door in the High Eyrie before the prince's guards reached the final stair. White wings broke into the winter dusk. Hawks, courier falcons, and 6 pale chimney owls rose through the iron arches above Vesperhold, while bells below announced the trial that would decide whether Judith had failed the Queen Mother or betrayed her. The guards stopped beneath the open cages. Chancellor Greer Vallow arrived behind them in a dark court mantle, his silver chain bright against the soot-black stone. "You have released crown messengers under seizure order." Judith fastened the last latch open. "The falcons bear no active dispatch. The chimney owls have never belonged to the crown. Every bird housed in a royal eyrie is a royal instrument. A fed creature is not an owned one." Greer looked toward the emptying sky. "The court may call this destruction of evidence. The court may first explain why it ordered living evidence caged." She wore widow's grey, a weathered leather glove, and the brass root whistle that had belonged to her husband, Corin Fenrose. Wind pulled dark strands from the knot at her neck. Years of handling frightened wings had left fine scars across her hands, but they did not tremble. The final chimney owl remained on the western beam. Its feathers held the color of ash under moonlight. Judith set a strip of raw meat on the stone and stepped away. She did not whistle. She did not raise her glove. Chimney owls did not serve crowns. They returned sealed messages to the last hearth hand that fed them without demanding ownership, following soot, wax, and thread memory through chimney routes no court map recorded. They could not be commanded to retrieve a letter, accuse a hand, or choose a keeper. They preserved passage, not guilt. The owl ate, watched her once, and flew into the dark. Greer's mouth tightened. "Take her below." Judith descended under guard to the court of Vesperhold, where Queen Mother Elowen Rell's final journey had already been reduced to a route mark Judith swore had never reached her hand. 7 months earlier, Elowen had left for the western border during a thaw. The road collapsed beneath her carriage after river gates opened too early. 3 riders died with her. The official register claimed that a chimney route letter had crossed Judith's feeding mark at Second Bell and entered the High Eyrie before the Queen departed. Judith had never received it. No owl had landed at her hearthrail. No sealed tube had entered her hand. Yet her office mark stood beside the route entry. Wolf Prince Bastian Rell waited below the throne dais. He wore black military wool instead of mourning white. His face had hardened since his mother's death, warmth around his grey eyes reduced to discipline. His royal wolf moved beneath his skin whenever the West Road was named, but it had never accepted the official account of Elowen's journey. Since the funeral, it had refused the palace west stair like a wolf refusing poisoned meat. Bastian had told no one. A prince whose wolf rejected his mother's death route, invited questions about judgment, succession, and falsified royal scent. Greer presented the charge. Judith Fenrose failed to receive a chimney route letter. The register records as having already crossed her feeding mark. She did not challenge the entry before the Queen Mother departed. When ordered to surrender the Eyrie birds for examination, she released them. Judith stood alone beneath the messenger gallery. "Show the bird that crossed my feeding mark." The register records a chimney owl. Which owl? No wing name was entered. Which leg tube? The entry says the tube was damaged. Who handled the damaged seal? Your office. My office is a room. Name the hand. A few courtiers shifted. Greer remained calm. Your husband designed the night routes. You continued his work after his death. Custody rested with you. Corin had died 2 years earlier in an Eyrie fire, officially blamed on an overturned lamp. He had been found beside the western chimney with burns on both arms and the iron shutters locked from inside. Judith had never believed he died saving empty cages. Bastian came down 1 step. Why release the birds before judgment? Because you ordered them confined under the same office, claiming one crossed my mark without ever reaching my hand. I ordered examination. You ordered cages before custody. His gaze moved to her empty glove. Years earlier, when he was a boy, Judith had taught him to hold an injured kestrel without closing his fist around its ribs. He had been impatient and frightened by how easily a living thing could break. Now he removed his own black glove and held it toward her, as though asking for the brass whistle. Judith stepped back. You taught me that trust cannot be forced, he said quietly. I taught you not to crush what you meant to protect. Pain crossed his face, then vanished. Bastian ordered the High Eyrie sealed. Every cage, feeding ledger, chimney shutter, soot tray, and root thread would pass into Crown custody. Judith was confined to the lower aviary until the root inquiry concluded. Her Eyrie keys were taken. The empty cage key remained in Bastian's hand. He held the key, as if preserving evidence could excuse taking the hand trained to read it. You are sealing the one place capable of proving whether the root ever reached me, she said. I am preserving it. You are preserving the accusation inside the same walls. He did not apologize. He had sealed the area around the accusation. Before testing the bird that made the accusation possible, the guards led Judith toward the lower aviary as night settled over Vesperhold. Above the court roofs, smoke rose from palace chimneys in black columns. Then something pale moved inside the Queen Mother's western plume. One chimney owl emerged from Elowen's private chimney, with a sealed letter hanging from its claws. The owl crossed the courtyard, ignored Bastian's extended glove, and descended toward Judith. It released the letter at her feet. The wax bore Queen Elowen's personal seal. Across it lay a black root stamp from Greer's Western Office. A Western Office stamp proves routing, not delay, Greer said. Royal travel letters often pass through my Western Office before returning to private hands. Judith did not accuse him. The owl had not named who delayed the letter. It had only returned the root the register claimed ended in Judith's hand. The letter did not clear her. It made the register impossible to trust. Bastian ordered the Queen Mother's letter sealed before anyone touched the broken wax. The chimney owl remained on the courtyard rail, feathers silver against the soot-dark stone. It did not look toward Judith again. Its work had ended. When the message returned to the last half-hand that had fed without claiming ownership, Greer Vallow stood beneath the western gallery. My office stamp proves root custody. It does not prove delay, alteration, or intent. No, Judith said. Then open the root that placed it there. Bastian granted her temporary standing as a root memory witness. She could examine soot traces, wax crossings, feeding marks, and thread bindings under divided custody. Her Eyrie keys remained in his hand. The High Eyrie stayed sealed. She remained confined to the lower aviary between examinations. You are letting me read the evidence after you caged the office trained to preserve it, she said. The letter will be opened. You took the keys before asking whether the root ever reached me. He did not apologize. The seal court moved the letter to a black stone table beneath 3 witnesses, one from the Crown Archive, one from the Eyrie, and one chosen by Judith. She named Master Elian Rook, an aging root binder who had worked beside Corran before the fire. Queen Elowen's wax was genuine. The outer fold had never been broken. Greer's black root stamp crossed the lower edge, not the seal itself, marking passage through Western Office custody without proving who held the letter there. Bastian ordered it opened. The message was not a simple flood warning. Elowen had written that the Western River gates were being delayed against their lawful release schedule. Meltwater was building behind the upper barriers while her travel office was being told the road remained safe. She ordered the gate timing, road weight report, and Western toll account brought to her before departure. At the bottom, she added one private instruction. If the chimney route returns this letter unopened, send it to Judith Fenrose. She will read the soot before the court reads the words. The line did not prove Judith had ever received it. It proved the Queen Mother expected the route itself to matter. Greer's expression remained composed. Royal travel letters often crossed my office because the Western roads fell under Chancellor review. Nothing in that instruction identifies unlawful delay. No, Judith said. Open the stamp time. The route stamp had been pressed with heat black wax containing ground river slate, a mixture used only in Greer's Western dispatch room. Its outer ring carried a timing tooth, 1 cut for each quarter bell after receipt. 3 cuts remained visible beneath the soot. The letter had passed through the Western office before second bell. The official register claimed it crossed Judith's feeding mark at second bell and entered the High Eyrie immediately afterward. Bastian ordered the chimney route register opened. The page showed a white wing entry, damaged tube, Judith's office mark, and completed delivery. No wing name, no leg tube number, no feeding witness. Greer said, "Night routes sometimes lose individual bird records when weather damages the tube. Then the feeding ledger should still show the owl." Judith replied, "Every chimney owl that accepted food at the High Eyrie left a soot crescent beside the hearth hand's mark. The keeper did not make the crescent. The bird's claws disturbed the ash tray while feeding, preserving weight, direction, and approximate arrival." Judith's ledger showed 6 ordinary feedings that night, 2 courier falcons before midnight, 3 hawks after first bell, 1 injured kestrel near dawn. No chimney owl. Bastian looked at the page. Could the ash have been replaced? Yes, Judith said. But replacement leaves a clean edge around the tray. There was none. Could another person feed the owl under your mark? Greer asked. They could copy ink. They could not copy where my hand sets the meat, how the bird turns, or which side of the ashtray carries weight. Elian Rook confirmed the pattern. Judith fed from the left edge because an old tendon injury limited her wrist. Any owl accepting food from her disturbed the ash in a narrow crescent toward the western lip. No such crescent appeared. The register's completed delivery line remained unproved. It did not fully clear Judith. A letter could have entered the Eyrie without feeding, been carried by hand, or been removed before reaching her. "Open the thread binding," she said. The letter had been tied with pale smoke thread, standard for private chimney routes. Beneath Greer's office stamp, 1 loop had been reversed and tightened through a tiny brass eye. Elian leaned closer. "That is not palace binding." Judith knew the mark before he named it. Corrin had trained night route birds to recognize a reversed loop paired with a whistle vibration. The pattern instructed a chimney owl to conceal a sealed message in warm chimney stone rather than carry it into open custody. Bastian looked at her. "Why would your husband mark the Queen Mother's letter?" "I do not know that he did. The binding carries his route method. A method is not a hand." Greer seized a distinction. A hidden route method can be copied by anyone trained in the Old Eyrie system. My office stamp came after the binding. If the loop is false, ask who tied it before the letter reached me. Judith did not defend her husband beyond the evidence. Then open the thread custody. Find when the reversed loop was tied and who had access before the Western stamp. Bastian extended her temporary standing to thread route review. Still no keys. Still no office. He was widening Judith's witness line while keeping the door she was trained to read locked behind his seal. The Eyrie supply ledger listed every brass eye issued for hidden route binding. Corrin's set had been entered as destroyed in the fire that killed him 2 years earlier. The fire inventory was brought from the lower archive. It listed his whistle, 2 melted brass eyes, 3 soot thread reels, and 1 route template recovered beside the western chimney. The recovered template bore the same reversed loop, now binding the Queen Mother's missing letter. But the inventory date was 2 years before Elowen wrote it. The template did not prove Corrin had touched Elowen's letter. It proved a method recorded as burned with him had survived long enough to bind a message written after his death, Bastian sealed the fire inventory before dawn and ordered every object listed as destroyed in Corin Fenrose's death examined under divided custody. The High Eyrie remained closed. Judith's keys stayed on the prince's belt, and she returned to the lower aviary whenever the witnesses stopped work. Her temporary standing widened only to fire inventory review. Greer Vallow stood beside the blackened evidence case. Old Eyrie methods were taught to more than one root keeper. A surviving pattern does not prove Corin tied the Queen Mother's letter, nor that my office used it unlawfully. No, Judith said. It proves the court cannot treat the fire list as a reliable grave. Bastian opened the custody book. You recorded Corin's whistle as melted beyond use, Judith said. Show me who made that judgment. He did not apologize for taking her keys before testing the inventory. He ordered the archive witnesses summoned. The original fire list had been written by Palace Keeper Ormond Vale and countersigned by an Eyrie quartermaster. Ormond had died the following winter. The quartermaster, Sabine Holt, still served in the lower mews. She arrived, carrying a bundle of old key tags, and looked at Judith only after the oath was administered. Did you see Corin's whistle after the fire? Bastian asked. I saw a brass shape fused to the floor grate. Did you test whether it was his? No. The root number was no longer visible. Who identified it? Keeper Vale. Greer folded his hands. A mistaken identification after a severe fire is not concealment. No, Judith said. What happened to the fused brass? Sabine opened the disposal line. Sent to the Western office for metal comparison. The evidence had not remained in the Eyrie. The Western receipt carried Greer's office routing stamp, but no personal receiving name. It described 1 melted whistle body, 2 damaged brass eyes, and a partial root plate. Routine after an attack on a royal messenger site, Greer said. My office compared surviving equipment before rebuilding the travel network. Judith did not overclaim. Then open the comparison record. The record showed that the fused whistle lacked Corin's inner reed. His true whistle had produced a double vibration, 1 low pulse to call a bird into chimney shadow, followed by a narrower tone that instructed concealment inside warm stone. The pattern on Eloin's smoke thread carried the same first pulse, but the second vibration was sharper and more regular than Corin's hand-cut reed could make. Elian tested the thread against an old root board. This mark came from a later reed. Bastian looked at Judith. Could Corin have built another? He could have, but a later pattern does not prove he did. The thread had preserved a method descended from Corin's design, not his living hand, Greer answered steadily, which supports lawful standardization. After the fire, the crown could not leave hidden roots dependent on one dead falconer's private tools. Who authorized the copy? Judith asked. The brass eye issuance ledger was brought from the rebuilt Eyrie stores. Corin's original set had been closed as destroyed. 4 months after his death, a replacement set of 12 eyes and 3 calibrated whistle reeds was issued. Destination: Western Chancellor Office. Purpose: Royal Travel Hidden. Route Standardization. The request did not name Greer personally. It carried his office seal and the signature of a route clerk named Aldous Marr, now dead. Greer pointed to the entry. The issue was lawful. The Queen Mother continued to travel after the Eyrie fire. Her correspondence required secure routes. Secure from whom? Judith asked. Border agents, court spies, anyone reading ordinary falcon lines. Was the High Eyrie told that my husband's hidden route had been copied? The Rebuilding Commission controlled disclosure. Judith turned to Bastian. And who controlled the commission? The Royal Travel Office. His office. Bastian's jaw tightened. Open the rebuilding minutes. He extended Judith's standing to hidden route standardization review. Still no keys. Still no restored office. He had opened the trail into his own office without opening the door he had locked against Judith. The minutes stated that the replacement eyes would be used only when ordinary royal routes failed. Each concealed message required 3 records: Western, office release, travel, office approval, and an Eyrie feeding witness before the route could be marked complete. Elowin's missing letter had the Western stamp. It had no feeding witness. The travel approval had been removed from the packet, Greer said. A missing approval does not prove none existed. No, Judith replied. Find the copy. The Royal Travel Ledger listed 7 hidden route approvals after Corran's death. 6 identified the letter, destination, assigned Chimney Owl, and receiving Hearth Hand. The 7th entry had no letter number and no owl name. Its destination line read High Eyrie. Its receiving line carried Judith's copied office mark. The approval date was the morning of Elowin's final journey. Bastian ordered the mark tested. The ink matched royal travel stock, not Judith's Eyrie mixture. Her true mark used hawk oil to keep winter ink from cracking. This one contained palace resin. Someone inside Royal Travel had prepared a false receiving line before the Queen Mother departed. That did not prove the letter had been held there. It proved the official route could be completed on paper without Judith's hand. A retired travel clerk, Miriam Say, was called from the East Archive. She remembered the approval because it arrived already sealed. Who brought it? Bastian asked. A Western courier. Did Chancellor Vallo bring it? No. Did you see his personal mark? No. Only office routing. Greer remained within the evidence, Judith asked. Who authorized you to accept an approval without an owl name or feeding witness? Miriam looked toward the prince. The travel secretary said the journey could not be delayed for Eyrie formalities. Name him, Bastian said. Lord Darrow Rell, Bastian's own travel secretary and second cousin. The original request for Corran's replacement brass eyes was placed beside the false approval. The Western office had initiated it, but the countersign that made the copied hidden route lawful belonged to Darrow Rell. It had been entered 3 weeks before Queen Elowin's final journey. A travel countersign authorizes use, Greer said. It does not erase Western routing. Then both offices touched the route, Judith replied. Do not ask me to choose one before the thread does. The name did not yet answer who held the letter. It answered who gave the false route permission to exist. Darrow Rell arrived before noon, with the travel office seal still hanging from his belt. Bastian did not return Judith's keys. He extended her temporary standing only to Royal Travel Approval custody and ordered the standardization packet opened under 3 witnesses. Judith remained confined to the lower aviary whenever the court adjourned. Greer Vallo took his place beside the records table. Western routing and royal travel approval are separate lawful steps. My office could receive a hidden route letter without controlling when the road office released it, and Darrow could authorize a route without holding the letter, Judith said. Open what each office received before anyone names the hand. Darrow bowed to Bastian, not to her. He was broad-shouldered, silver at the temples, and composed enough to look innocent or practiced. You countersigned the copied hidden route 3 weeks before the Queen Mother's final journey, Bastian said. I countersigned a standardization packet, prepared after the Eyrie fire. Did you know Judith Fenrose's method had been copied? Yes. Did you know Judith Fenrose had not been told? The route was classified under Royal Travel Security. Judith looked at the keys on Bastian's belt. Classified from the office. Expected to receive it. Darrow's expression did not change. The concern was compromise. The fire proved the High Eyrie was vulnerable. The fire proved only that Corran died there, Judith said. Its inventory has already failed. Bastian ordered the approval packet, read aloud. The packet authorized emergency use of copied brass eyes and calibrated whistle reeds when ordinary roads faced immediate danger. It required a feeding witness unless the message was marked urgent Royal Road safety. In that exception, the travel office could close the route temporarily on paper and obtain the feeding proof afterward. Elowen's letter carried the urgent mark. No later feeding proof had been attached. Darrow said, "The exception was lawful. A road warning cannot wait while a bird is identified. A route can be opened quickly," Judith replied. "It cannot be completed falsely." The approval page named no owl, no leg tube, and no receiving hand. It carried Greer's Western routing code, Darrow's travel countersign, and a blank space where Judith's feeding witness should have been added after delivery. Someone later filled that space with her copied office mark. Bastian asked, "Did you add it?" "No." "Did you order it added?" "No." "Did you see it before today?" Darrow hesitated. "I saw a completed route summary after the Queen Mother died. I did not compare the ink." His answer entered the record without being treated as truth or confession. Judith requested the gate timing, road weight report, and Western toll account named in Elowen's letter. Greer objected. "Those records concern border revenue and military movement beyond the charge against the falconer. The letter tied them to the route," Bastian said. "Open them." He still did not apologize. He had widened Judith's witness line into his own travel office, while leaving the Eyrie door locked under his seal. The Rivergate timing book showed that the upper gates should have released at first bell, before Elowen's carriage left Vesperhold. Instead, the release order was delayed until the third quarter after second bell. By then, meltwater had already pressed against the lower road supports. The delay order came from the Western Gate Commission. It carried no personal signature from Greer, only his office authorization. Greer said, "The Gate Commission could delay release if the lower channels were obstructed." "Were they?" Judith asked. The obstruction ledger recorded no blockage. The road weight report was worse. At dawn, inspectors marked the Western Road fit for royal carriage. At first bell, a second calculation showed that delayed gate pressure would make the lower crossing unsafe before second bell. That correction never reached Elowen's travel escort. Darrow leaned over the page. "My office received only the first report." "Show the intake book," Judith said. The travel office intake book listed both. The corrected report entered at 1/4 after first bell. Its receipt line carried a junior clerk's mark and a notation, "Hold pending Western clarification." "Who ordered the hold?" Bastian asked. The clerk, Nessa Vale, was brought from the travel archive. She had been 17 during Elowen's final journey and now served in the map room. "The corrected weight report arrived with a Western delay notice," she said. "Lord Darrow told me not to alter the road status until the Chancellor's office confirmed whether the gates would remain closed." Darrow's face tightened. "I told you to wait for confirmation, not to mark the road safe." "Who entered the safe mark?" Judith asked. Nessa pointed to the travel ledger. "Senior clerk, Oren Marr. Oren had died during the border fever. The road safe mark appeared at 1/2 after first bell. Greer's Western delay notice had entered the same office 15 minutes earlier. The notice stated that the river gates would not open on schedule and that pressure estimates were under review. It did not order Elowen's journey cancelled. It did not declare the road unsafe, but it warned the travel office that the first road weight report could no longer be relied upon. Greer said, "A delay notice is not a closure order." "No," Judith replied. "But it arrived before your office's route was marked safe." Darrow answered sharply, "My office did not create the gate delay, and Greer's office did not enter the road safe mark," Bastian said. The evidence still divided responsibility. Judith looked from one man to the other. "Then stop asking which office owned the whole failure. Show how one office's notice became the other office's permission." The toll account supplied the next piece. After the delayed gates made the Royal Road unstable, Western toll collectors continued charging heavy freight caravans to use a private ridge passage controlled by companies tied to Greer's border administration. The arrangement earned triple winter fees. Elowen had requested that account before she died. Greer did not deny the profit. The ridge passage remained open when the lower road was not. Revenue kept grain moving. It also gave your office reason to delay the gates, Judith said. Reason is not proof. No. The court returned to the travel ledger. Beside the road-safe mark, hidden beneath a later correction, was a receipt number matching Greer's Western delay notice. Darrow's office had entered the road as safe, after receiving written notice that the gate timing had changed. The mark did not prove Darrow ordered Elowen onto the road. It proved Bastian's travel office had certified safety after the Western office warned that the conditions supporting that certification no longer existed. Bastian suspended Darrow Rell from issuing royal travel approvals before the road-safe ledger left the witness table. The suspension was not a conviction. Darrow kept his title, but every route seal under his authority passed to divided custody. Greer remained in office because the Western delay notice, though profitable to his administration, had not yet been shown unlawful. Judith's standing widened to departure route review. Still, no Eyrie keys. Still, no restored office. Bastian had opened the road beneath his mother's carriage, while keeping Judith confined beneath the birds trained to read it. Darrow stood beside the travel table. A senior clerk entered the safe mark. I did not order the Queen Mother to depart. You told the office not to alter the road status until Western confirmation, Bastian said. Yes, and the Western notice said the gate schedule had changed. It said pressure estimates remained under review. Greer added, no chancellor may close a royal road merely because one gate release is delayed. The travel office decides whether a journey proceeds. Judith looked at both men, then opened the departure packet. A road does not carry a queen because one ledger says safe. It requires a route ribbon, carriage weight, escort release, and royal wolf passage. The last item sharpened Bastian's face. Every Rell departure crossed the western stair beneath the scent of its authorized route. A narrow wool ribbon, smoked over the assigned chimney and marked with road wax, was carried before the royal household. The ruling wolf tested it before the carriage gates opened. On the morning Elowen died, Bastian had been away inspecting the northern barracks. His mother's household wolf was old and half-blind. The travel office recorded that it accepted the ribbon without distress. The ribbon had been preserved in the morning archive. Bastian ordered it opened under witness. Judith was allowed to examine it at the lower court table, not in the High Eyrie. He still held the keys required to compare its soot against the original chimney trays. This review is incomplete without the Eyrie, she said. The ribbon can be tested here. You keep bringing pieces of my office into rooms controlled by the officers under question. He did not apologize. The ribbon carried palace resin, Western river slate, and ash from a chimney burning blackthorn wood. Elowen's private departure chimney burned white beech that winter. Greer said, royal ribbons often passed through secondary chimneys when weather changed. Which chimney used blackthorn? Judith asked. The fuel ledger named 3, the Western toll house, the Chancellor's dispatch room, and the old carriage tower. Soot alone could not identify one. Elian Rook unfolded the ribbon's inner seam. A thin smoke thread ran beneath the wool, tightened through one of the standardized brass eyes issued after Corrin's death. The same copied method used on Elowen's letter had been built into her departure route, Darrow said. Standardization was lawful. Use may have been lawful, Judith replied. The route still requires a true destination. The road wax named the Lower Western Crossing, but the soot thread held a concealment vibration, directing Chimney Owls toward the toll house flue. The ribbon had certified one road while carrying the memory of another custody point. It did not prove who altered it. It proved the Queen Mother's departure route and missing letter had passed through the same hidden route system. Bastian ordered the escort release opened. The carriage weight matched the first road report, not the corrected one. The escort captain had signed before the Western delay notice arrived. A later travel office notation stated that no recalculation was required because the road remained safe. Darrow's countersign stood beneath it. "I approve the route status already entered," he said. I did not see the corrected weight sheet. Nessa Vale was recalled. "The corrected sheet was attached to the delay notice when I carried it into your office. Did you place it in my hand?" "No. I placed it on the senior clerk's desk." Darrow remained inside negligence and possible concealment, not proven intent. Judith requested the Royal Wolf Passage record. The page said Elowen's household wolf accepted the departure ribbon at first bell. The witness line carried the mark of Kennet Bale, master of the Royal Kennels. Kennet had retired to a monastery after the Queen Mother's funeral. He returned under summons with one arm bound from an old wolf bite. "Did Elowen's wolf accept the ribbon?" Bastian asked. "No." The court went still. Kennet continued before anyone could turn the answer into more than it was. She was restless, fevered, and near the end of her scent. She snapped at the ribbon, then turned from the west stair. "Why does the record say acceptance?" Judith asked. "Lord Darrow's deputy said royal travel could not be delayed, because an aged wolf had lost confidence. Did Darrow give that order?" "I never heard him." "Did Greer?" "No." Again, the hands nearest the act did not yet reach the men who benefited. Bastian's own wolf pressed hard beneath his skin. Judith saw his fingers close against the table. "You knew another wolf rejected that stare," she said. He looked at her. The court waited. "Mine has refused it since the funeral," he said. The admission did not clear Judith or condemn either office. It exposed that the prince had concealed a living contradiction while punishing her for one written in ink. "Why did you hide it?" she asked. "Because a royal wolf refusing my mother's death route would have challenged every succession oath taken afterward, and so you caged my birds instead." His silence entered the room more heavily than denial. The passage ledger was tested. Kennet's true kennel ink contained rendered bone oil. The acceptance mark used palace resin, the same mixture used to copy Judith's receiving line. Someone inside Royal Travel had falsified both ends of the route, the bird's arrival and the wolf's consent. That still did not identify the hand. Then Kennet asked to see the departure ribbon again. He turned it toward the fire and exposed a second road wax impression beneath the first. The hidden impression did not name the lower western crossing. It named Greer Vallow's Private Ridge Road. Bastian barred royal traffic from Greer Vallow's Private Ridge before the witness table was cleared. The order froze toll movement and carriage access. It did not seize Greer's estates or name him responsible for Elowen's death. The lower western crossing remained under repair, and grain convoys were redirected under neutral guard. Judith's temporary standing widened to Ridge Route custody. Herr Eiriki's Stillung from Bastian's Belt. Greer watched the closure writ receive its seal. A concealed, alternate route is not an unlawful one. The Ridge Road was approved for royal emergencies after the spring washouts. "Then show the approval that placed it beneath the Queen Mother's departure ribbon," Judith said. Darrow Rell remained suspended from travel authority. He stood under witness beside the route ledgers, no longer permitted to touch them. Bastian opened the alternate road packet. The Ridge Passage belonged to 3 merchant companies operating under Western administration. Greer held no declared ownership, but his office received a percentage of winter tolls in exchange for maintaining the stone cuts and bridge chains. The arrangement was lawful under an emergency commerce charter signed 12 years earlier. Its renewal was due the week after Elowen died. Greer did not deny the income. The Crown lacked funds to keep the ridge open. Private tolls preserved trade. Elowen asked for the toll account before departure, Judith said. She was reviewing renewal. Was she going to approve it? That letter does not say. The account did. A memorandum in Elowen's hand ordered the emergency charter ended. The Ridge companies had charged grain wagons triple toll while receiving Crown subsidies for the same maintenance. She intended to place the road under direct royal custody and investigate whether delayed river releases were being used to force traffic uphill. The memorandum had never entered the council record. It was not proof that Greer knew her decision. Bastian ordered its custody opened. The document had left Elowen's private chamber in a red travel folio. Her secretary recorded it among materials for the Western journey. The folio recovered from the wreck contained the charter, 2 bridge maps, and an empty thread sleeve where the memorandum should have rested. Who inventoried the wreck? Judith asked. Royal Travel and Western Road officers jointly, Darrow said. Names. The travel officer was dead. The Western officer, Captain Soren Pell, still commanded the Ridge Toll Guard. He arrived before evening with road frost on his cloak. Did you recover the Queen Mother's red folio? Bastian asked. Yes. Was this memorandum inside? I never saw it. Who opened the folio first? The carriage had split. Papers were scattered in snow. My men gathered them. Did Chancellor Vallo attend the wreck? No. Did anyone carry papers to his office? I sent the recovered effects to the Western Dispatch Room for drying before transfer to Vesperhold. Greer's office had handled the wreck papers. That proved custody, not removal. Judith requested the drying room register. It listed the red folio, 7 sealed documents, 2 maps, and 1 unmarked thread sleeve. No memorandum was entered. Greer said, If the paper never reached my office, my clerks could not record it. If it reached without a title, they might record only the sleeve. Judith replied, Possibility is not proof. No. The Ridge Road condition books were opened next. On the morning Elowen departed, the private route was marked passable for light coaches but unsafe for a full royal carriage. Ice had loosened one of the bridge chains. A repair crew had requested 6 hours before reopening, yet the hidden wax on Elowen's ribbon carried an unrestricted ridge authorization. Darrow said, My office never approved a heavy carriage for that road. Greer answered, Nor did mine. The route wax may have marked contingency rather than destination. Judith examined the lower edge of the ribbon. A contingency mark is cut once. This impression was pressed twice. Elian Rook confirmed it. The first pressure set the ridge road into the wax. A second heated seal covered it with the lower crossing. Someone had prepared the ridge as Elowen's route, then overwritten it before departure. The order of marks still did not establish which road the carriage took. Bastian ordered the wreck residue brought from the morning archive. Wheel, iron scrapings, axle mud, and fabric cut from the carriage step. Judith was not permitted to test them in the High Eyrie soot room. You have opened route custody into a road owned by the man whose office stamped the letter, she told Bastian. And still you keep the only proper comparison room under your key. The court can bring the trays here. Once removed, they lose chimney position. His hand closed around the key ring. He did not return it. Instead, he ordered the court to climb to the sealed eyrie under divided guard, while Judith remained below. Elian would collect the comparison trays under her spoken directions. You trust my instructions inside the room, she said, but not my hand. Bastian met her gaze. Not yet. The answer cut more cleanly than an excuse. The residue test showed blackthorn soot on the carriage step, matching the departure ribbon. The axle mud contained pale ridge limestone, absent from the lower crossing, but the wheel iron carried river clay from the fatal road. The carriage had touched both routes. Greer seized the uncertainty. It may have used the ridge approach before descending to the lower road. Captain Pell shook his head. A royal carriage cannot move from the ridge approach to the lower crossing without passing the West Toll Court, then open its passage roll, Judith said. The toll roll recorded Elowen's carriage entering the ridge approach shortly after second bell. It recorded no departure. Bastian looked at Pell. How did it reach the lower road? I do not know. A second roll existed for service gates used by maintenance crews. Its page for that morning had been cut out. The surviving binding thread carried a whistle vibration, not Corin's original double pulse. the later calibrated pattern issued to Greer's Western office. Still, the vibration identified a copied tool, not the hand that used it. Judith turned the toll roll toward the fire. Beneath Eloin's carriage entry lay a faint pressure mark from the missing service page. 3 words remained legible. Hold Royal Coach below. Bastian sealed the West Toll Court before sunset and ordered every service gate officer held for questioning under neutral guard. The pressure mark beneath the missing page did not prove who wrote the instruction. It proved only that someone had ordered the Royal Coach held below the ridge, while the public travel record showed uninterrupted passage. Judith's temporary standing widened to service gate custody. Her Eyrie keys remained on Bastian's belt. Greer Vallow looked at the faint words under the toll roll. Maintenance pages carried hundreds of hold orders. A Royal Coach might be stopped for chains, livestock, or inspection. Then the missing page should name the reason, Judith said. Darrow Rell stood apart from both of them, still suspended from travel authority. The toll court answered to Western administration, "Not my office. The coach reached it under a ribbon your office certified." Bastian replied. Neither office could leave the chain. The surviving service gatekeeper was a widow named Maura Sen. She had worked the lower mechanism on the morning Eloin died and had lost 2 fingers when the ridge chain snapped the following winter. Was the Queen Mother's coach held below? Bastian asked. Yes. By whose order? A written service hold came through the toll room. Did you see Chancellor Vallow write it? No. Lord Darrow? No. Who brought it? A Western dispatch boy, wearing a grey root cord. Greer said, "Grey cords served every office between the ridge and the river." Judith asked, "What did the order require?" "Keep the Royal Coach beneath the toll arch until the blackthorn smoke changed to white." Blackthorn smoke belonged to the Western dispatch chimneys. White smoke signaled that a route obstruction had cleared. "Did the smoke change?" Judith asked. "It changed after second bell." "Then why did the coach not continue on the ridge?" Maura's face tightened. The service page was returned with a new road strip. It directed the coach through the maintenance descent to the lower crossing. Captain Pell had said, "No royal carriage could descend without appearing in the service roll." The missing page had contained the passage. "Who brought the second strip?" Bastian asked. "The same boy, I think. His hood was wet by then." "Did you preserve it?" "I placed both strips in the toll packet." The packet now held neither. Greer's voice stayed level. "A missing strip does not prove my office ordered the descent." "No," Judith said. "Open the smoke custody." The Western chimney log recorded blackthorn smoke until 1/4 after second bell, then white for 6 minutes, then black again. The change had not marked a cleared road. The gate delay remained active for another hour. Someone used the dispatch chimney to release the coach while the danger continued. The smoke entry carried a furnace keeper's mark. The keeper, Thomas Vey, had died in a warehouse collapse. His assistant still lived. Lena Vey entered under oath with soot permanently darkening the lines of her palms. "Did Thomas change the smoke to white?" Bastian asked. "No. He was at the gate commission." "Who entered the furnace room?" "2 Western clerks and a royal travel messenger." "Na, miss." One clerk was Aldous Marr. I did not know the other. The messenger wore Lord Darrow's office badge. Darrow said, "Badges can be issued without my presence." "Did you send a messenger to the toll court?" Bastian asked. "I sent several that morning. I do not remember each errand." Again, access gathered around both offices without yet naming the commanding hand. Judith requested the furnace ash from the Queen Mother's travel week. Old chimney ash was stored by season because soot mixtures authenticated route signals. The Western Archive produced 4 sealed jars. The jar for Eloin's departure morning weighed less than its ledger entry. Its seal was intact. Elian Rook examined the wax. The jar was opened from beneath. The base clay was softened and reset. Inside, Judith found blackthorn ash, lime from the ridge road, and 3 small curls of burned smoke thread. One carried the later calibrated whistle pattern. Another carried Darrow's travel office resin. The third was older. Its fibers held hawk oil, Judith's mixture. Greer turned toward her. Then your office material entered the furnace. My mixture is used only at the Eyrie, which means someone from the Eyrie touched the service order, or someone carried away what the fire inventory falsely declared, destroyed. Bastian looked at the keyring between them. Judith did not ask again. Opened the High Eyrie ash custody. He hesitated only once before ordering divided witnesses upstairs. He did not return the keys. He permitted Judith to enter under guard for comparison, her first step inside since the seizure. The familiar smell of feathers, cold iron, and banked hearths struck harder than confinement had. Every cage stood open, yet royal seals crossed the feeding doors. Bastian offered his glove as she climbed past a broken stair rail. Judith withdrew her hand. "I know the stones," she said. He lowered the glove. At the western soot cabinet, she matched the burned hawk oil thread to a private batch Corran had prepared weeks before his death. The batch ledger showed that every reel was destroyed in the Eyrie fire. Another false grave. But the thread did not prove Corran wrote the hold order. It proved material assigned to him had survived and reached the toll furnace 2 years later. Behind the soot cabinet, one chimney owl stirred inside a warm wall opening. It carried no message. It shifted aside only when Judith placed food on the hearthstone and stepped back. A narrow chimney pocket appeared behind it. The owl had not chosen her or revealed guilt. It had returned to the last hearth hand and exposed the warm root where sealed material had been stored. Inside lay 2 unopened letters from Queen Elowen. Both bore Greer's Western stamp. Neither carried Judith's feeding mark. The first demanded an audit of ridge toll profits. The second ordered the copied hidden root system suspended until Corran's fire inventory could be independently reviewed. Across the second letter ran a travel office closure line in Darrow Rell's resin. Darrow stared at it. "I never saw that letter." Judith did not accuse him. The closure line did not prove he had ordered the message buried. It proved his office had closed a route, carrying the Queen Mother's command to investigate the system both offices were using. Bastian suspended every route closure issued under Darrow Rell's authority before the 2 hidden letters were removed from the Eyrie wall. The suspension did not name Darrow a conspirator. It prevented his office from correcting, replacing, or completing any record under review. Greer Vallow remained under Western account restriction, but no charge yet accused him of holding the Queen Mother's letters. Judith's temporary standing widened to closure custody review. Her keys remained on Bastian's belt. She had been permitted back into the High Eyrie only under guard, inside an office still sealed against her authority. Darrow faced the 2 letters across the soot table. "Travel closure resin identifies my office. It does not identify the clerk who drew the line." "Then open the clock notch," Judith said. Every travel closure ended with a shallow blade cut hidden beneath the resin. The angle identified the desk, while the depth showed whether the route had been completed, suspended, or transferred. Elienrook warmed the second letter above clean charcoal. A narrow, diagonal notch appeared. It belonged to the Royal Travel Completion Desk. The Queen Mother's order, suspending the copied hidden route system, had been entered as completed delivery, although it had remained sealed inside the chimney wall. Darrow's face hardened. A clerk may have closed the packet from a summary. "A summary prepared by whom?" Bastian asked. The closure book named Senior Clerk Oren Marr, now dead. Beside his mark stood a packet number covering 3 royal letters received through Western routing on the same day. Only 2 had been recovered from the wall. Judith looked at the sequence. "Where is the third?" Greer answered before Darrow could. "A packet number can include a withdrawn draft." Then the withdrawal should be recorded. No withdrawal appeared. The third line carried only an abbreviated title, Border Charter Disposition. Greer's expression did not change. A title is not a decision. The Queen Mother reviewed charters constantly. No, Judith said. But it gives us another route to find. Bastian ordered the completion packet opened. The original had vanished. A copied index remained in the travel archive, listing Western receipt, urgent road status, completed Eyrie delivery, and destruction of temporary route materials after confirmation. There had been no Eyrie delivery, yet the destruction order was executed the night Corin died. The room seemed to narrow around Judith. "Open the fire. Night custody," she said. Bastian extended her standing again. Still no keys. Still no restoration of the office whose records were being used to investigate its own destruction. The Fire Night packet stated that hidden route materials at the High Eyrie were to be burned because a foreign interception risk had compromised the Western Chimney Line. The request originated in Greer's office and was approved as an emergency cleansing by Royal Travel. Darrow read the countersign twice. "This is my seal. Did you approve it?" Bastian asked. "I approved destruction of exposed route thread and copied wax. I did not authorize burning the Eyrie." Greer said, "Nor did my request. It ordered contaminated materials removed before enemy agents could use them." Judith examined the wording. Neither document ordered a structural fire. Neither named Corin. Neither proved the two men expected anyone to die. "Who supervised the cleansing?" she asked. A Western Route captain named Pell Varden had signed the work list. He was reported dead at the border 6 months later. 3 chimney masons served beneath him. 1 survived. Rusk Holden was brought from a village below Vesperhold. Age had bent his back, but he remembered the fire because Corin had broken his jaw that night. "Why?" Bastian asked. "Captain Varden brought oil instead of ash sand," Rusk said. "Master Fenrose said no cleansing flame was permitted, while birds remained in the warm roots." "Did Varden name Chancellor Vallow?" "He said the Western office wanted every concealed pocket opened before dawn." "Did he say Greer ordered the Eyrie burned?" "No." "Did Darrow?" "No." The testimony reached the officers again, not the men. Rusk continued. "Corin opened the outer shutters to release the birds. Varden's men tried to seal them. Corin struck me when I took the western lever." Judith kept her voice level. "What did he do after the fire started?" "He closed the iron baffles between the nesting flues and the oil chamber. It kept the flame from climbing into the upper pockets, and trapped him beside the western chimney," Judith said. Rusk lowered his eyes. "Yes, Corin had not died protecting empty cages. He had stopped a cleansing crew from burning the concealed roots with living birds and sealed messages inside them. That still did not prove Greer ordered his death. The original feeding ledger from the Fire Night was examined next. One line had been dismissed as heat damage, a triple crescent beside Corin's hearthmark, followed by a reversed brass eye symbol. Elian touched the page. Deep hold. Judith knew the rarely used pattern. Corin had trained a Chimney Owl to carry one sealed letter past the ordinary warm pockets and conceal it inside a cold flue until the same hearth hand or the next hand feeding without ownership opened the return path. The third packet number stood beside the mark. Bastian looked toward the sealed western flues. "Can the route still be opened?" "Not by command," Judith said. "And not while the hearth is treated as crown property." His hand moved toward her keys, then stopped. He ordered the royal seizure seals removed from the feeding hearth, but he did not restore her office or return the ring. Judith placed meat on the old stone and withdrew. No owl appeared at first. Then ash shifted inside the coldest chimney throat. A pale chimney owl descended, not to her glove, but to the unclaimed food. After feeding, it struck the stone once with its beak. A brass eye fell from the flue. Thread followed. At its end hung a sealed letter bearing Queen Elowin's wax and the missing packet number. Across the outer fold, in the Queen Mother's own hand, were the words, "Terminate the Western Border Charter before renewal." Bastian ordered the Western Border Charter frozen before Queen Eloan's final letter was opened. The order halted renewal, toll collection, and every route privilege attached to Grier Vallow's administration. It did not yet declare the Chancellor guilty of intercepting royal correspondence. The sealed command proved what Eloan intended to do, not who had prevented her from doing it. Judith remained beside the feeding hearth, while divided witnesses carried the letter to the soot table. Her keys still hung from Bastian's belt. Grier looked at the Queen Mother's handwriting without lowering his head. "A decision to terminate the charter gives me motive to oppose her. It does not prove I buried her letter or altered her road." "No," Judith said. "Open the renewal custody." The charter renewal packet had been prepared 5 days before Eloan's journey. It included Grier's profit statement, bridge maintenance claims, toll exemptions for grain, and Darrow Rell's travel recommendation that the Ridge Road remain available for royal emergencies. Eloan's approval line was blank. A later council copy bore a renewal seal dated the morning after her death. Bastian ordered the seal tested. The wax was authentic crown stock. The pressure came from a council matrix, kept in the Royal Travel Office during emergency mourning. Darrow had authority to release that matrix only when the sovereign or heir had already approved the underlying act. "I believe the Queen Mother intended renewal," Darrow said. "On what record?" Bastian asked. "A Western summary stating that she requested revised terms rather than termination," Grier said. "My office supplied that summary from the accounts available before her departure." Judith placed the final letter beside it. "Her sealed command says the opposite." "I never saw that command." "Then show what your office did see." The Western summary had been compiled from 3 documents: the toll account, the bridge report, and a private note said to come from Eloan's secretary. The note carried no original seal. Its language stated that the Queen Mother accepted temporary continuation while revenue questions were reviewed. Eloan's secretary, Lady Maris Dane, was summoned from mourning retirement. "I did not write this," she said. "Do you recognize the hand?" Bastian asked. "It imitates mine. The final letters lean too heavily because the writer copied from formal decrees, not my private notes." The false note did not identify its author. It proved the renewal summary rested on a manufactured statement. Grier remained controlled. "A clerk may have tried to reconcile conflicting instructions after the Queen Mother died. The summary was dated before she died," Judith said. Silence crossed the table. The root custody showed that the false note entered Grier's Western office on the same afternoon. Corrin recorded the Triple Crescent deep hold. It left the next morning inside the charter packet sent to Royal Travel. Darrow approved emergency renewal after Eloan's death, using that packet. He did not deny it. "I trusted the Chancellor's certified summary," he said. "You trusted it after your office had closed 2 of her letters as delivered without a feeding witness," Judith replied. Darrow looked toward Bastian. "I did not know they remained hidden. You knew the route could be completed without Judith's hand," Bastian said. "You authorized the exception." The distinction entered the record. Darrow had made the false route lawful and relied on its resulting summary. The evidence did not prove he ordered Corrin's death or personally hid the letters. It proved he ignored the custody protections designed to prevent exactly that result. Bastian suspended him from royal office pending judgment. Then he turned to Grier. "Who received Eloan's final letter in your Western office?" The root stamp ledger named Aldous Marr, the dead clerk whose signature appeared on the copied brass eye request. Judith asked for his desk book. The archive produced only its cover. The pages had been removed during a records reduction, ordered 6 months after Eloan died. "Who authorized the reduction?" Bastian asked. Grier's personal seal stood beneath the order. Grier did not retreat. Aldous was dead. His temporary books had been copied into permanent accounts. Where are the copies? The permanent account preserved toll totals, repair costs, and route numbers. It omitted letter, custody. Judith opened the binding. Threads from several removed pages remained caught beneath the spine. They carried blackthorn soot, river slate, and one trace of hawk oil from Corrin's surviving batch. The Western office had held route material linked to the Eyrie fire, Elowin's concealed letters, and the copied hidden system. That still did not prove Greer personally handled each item. Then Lady Maris identified a number written beneath the final letter's wax. "It is the Queen Mother's private receipt demand," she said. Whoever accepted this letter was required to return the matching half to her hand. No receipt appeared in Elowin's effects. Greer's charter renewal file contained a narrow scrap used as a page marker. The numbers matched. Greer looked at the scrap for a long moment. That file passed through many hands. "Yes," Judith said. "So test the cut." The fibers joined cleanly. The page marker had been cut from Elowin's receipt demand after the letter entered Western custody. It proved the office received the command and separated its proof of acceptance before sending a contrary summary to Royal Travel. It still did not prove Greer caused Elowin's fatal road diversion. It proved his office knew she intended to terminate the arrangement that paid it. Bastian ordered Greer removed from the Chancellorship and held for formal trial on intercepted royal correspondence, falsified charter renewal, destruction of root custody, and concealment of protected records. Then he faced Judith before the full court. "The charge that you received and failed to act upon the Queen Mother's letter has no lawful foundation." He removed the Eyrie keys from his belt. "I seized living messengers under records supplied by the offices those messengers could contradict. I sealed your authority before testing their custody." He placed the keys on the soot table, rather than reaching for her hand. Judith took them herself. Bastian restored her as royal keeper of the High Eyrie and voided every confinement order entered against her. The Chimney Owls did not descend or bow. The court's correction required no magical approval. Judith unlocked the feeding doors. Only then did the Western alarm bell begin to ring. Smoke was rising from the old carriage tower, and every surviving route ledger from Corrin's fire had just been moved there for trial. Judith reached the old carriage tower before the flames climbed above the first archive window. She carried the restored Eyrie keys in one hand and Corrin's brass whistle in the other. Bastian followed with palace guards, but stopped when she raised her palm at the western stair. "This tower is connected to the Chimney Route archive," she said. "Your men enter only under divided custody. No one removes a ledger without a route witness." 7 hours earlier, he would have overruled her. Now, he dismissed half the guards and placed the rest beneath her authority. The tower doors had been barred from inside. Blackthorn smoke pressed through the upper vents, the same fuel used in Greer's dispatch chimneys. Judith unlocked the maintenance hatch and found a soot thread stretched across the mechanism. It carried the calibrated concealment pulse copied from Corrin's design. The thread did not identify the hand that set the fire. It showed that the same hidden root system had sealed the archive while the records burned. Bastian broke the lower bar only after Judith recorded the thread, wax, and hinge soot. Inside, flames followed shelves prepared with oil-soaked root cloth. The fire had not started at random. It moved through cabinets containing Greer's receipt books, Darrow's travel approvals, and the inventory from Corrin's Eyrie fire. A junior Western clerk lay coughing near the stair. Judith dragged him beyond the smoke line before questioning began. His office colors did not make him proof. His name was Halen IV. "Who ordered you here?" Bastian asked. "A sealed contingency instruction in the charter vault," Halen said. "It said that if the Western arrangement was seized under hostile custody, compromised route books were to be cleansed." "Whose seal?" "The Chancellor's." Greer was brought under guard while neutral witnesses opened the instruction. The seal was his personal one, The wording had been entered 4 years earlier and renewed 3 months before Elowin's final journey. It authorized destruction of root material if disclosure threatened border security. Greer did not deny signing it. The ridge arrangement moved grain when Crown roads failed, he said. If rival packs obtained those books, they could cut every winter supply line. You classified a royal trial as hostile custody, Bastian said. I created a defense against seizure. I did not light this fire. Halen confirmed that no recent message came from Greer's hand. The old instruction activated when the charter vault seal was broken. The evidence did not prove Greer ordered the fire from confinement. It proved he had built destruction into the system he governed, so records could disappear whenever lawful review threatened his arrangement. Judith turned toward the upper archive. The central stair was burning. Chimney owls moved inside the smoke, not attacking anyone or answering commands. They followed heated soot roots, carrying sealed packets toward feeding pockets built into the tower walls. Corrin had trained them for that purpose, not to choose a keeper. To preserve sealed custody when human hands turned fire into procedure, Judith placed food at the eastern hearth and opened the cold return flue. One by one, the owls dropped packets onto the stone. Bastian carried each beyond the threshold, only after she entered its soot position and thread mark. The final packet came from the highest chimney. It contained Corrin's fire night statement. He had written that Greer's Western cleansing crew arrived with oil, copied brass eyes, and an order to open every concealed pocket. He recorded no instruction to kill him. He wrote that Captain Varden intended to burn the root chambers after removing selected charter records, and that Corrin sealed himself beside the western baffles to keep flame from reaching the nesting flues. Attached was the third letter's original receipt half. Corrin had intercepted it after discovering that Greer's office separated Elowin's acceptance proof from her command. He concealed the letter because the royal travel route had already been copied and falsely completed. The statement did not prove Greer ordered Elowin's carriage onto the fatal road. It completed the narrower chain. Greer's office knew Elowin intended to terminate the profitable charter. It held her letters, removed receipt proof, supplied a contrary renewal summary, controlled the gate delay notice, preserved a destruction order, and sent the cleansing crew whose fire killed Corrin, while he protected the surviving custody. Darrow's judgment remained separate. He had authorized the copied route, accepted urgent completion without a feeding witness, certified the road after conditions changed, and renewed the charter from a false summary. The court removed him from Royal Travel Authority. No finding declared that he knew Elowin would die. Greer was convicted of intercepting royal correspondence, falsifying charter renewal, concealing root custody, profiting from manipulated passage, and creating unlawful destruction procedures. The court did not convict him of murder. The evidence could not prove he ordered the road collapse or Corrin's death. Judith Fenrose's record was corrected publicly. He had not died through careless flame. He had died preventing a cleansing operation from destroying living birds, sealed messages, and the last lawful proof of Elowin's command. Bastian entered the Queen Mother's letters into the public record. He voided every accusation against Judith and restored the High Eyrie as an independent root office beyond sole control of either Chancellor or royal travel. Then he rewrote messenger law. No living bird could be seized by the same office whose register was disputed. No chimney route could be marked complete without a named hearth hand, feeding trace, and divided witness. No urgent seal could replace later custody. Destruction orders could never activate against judicial review. At the western stair, Bastian removed the falsified departure ribbon from its iron hook. His wolf crossed without hesitation. It had not rejected prophecy or his blood. It had rejected the copied soot and false road scent used to certify Elowin's final journey. Weeks later, Bastian came to the High Eyrie without guards. He stopped outside Judith's open door and offered no glove. "I caged the evidence before I tested the hands that recorded it," he said. "I cannot ask you to forget that." "You cannot. I can enter only when invited." Judith studied the prince, who had held her keys, as if authority were truth. Then she stepped aside. "Feed the eastern hearth," she said, "and do not close your hand." Bastian placed the meat on the stone and withdrew. A chimney owl descended only after neither of them tried to own its return.